Hey guys, Apox Fox here. Sifu was easily one of my most anticipated games coming out this year. I just love the way the trailers showed off these really fast-paced kung fu battles in claustrophobic hallways, with these awesome camera angles and really energetic music, but other than that, I had no clue what this game was going to be like. I knew there was some sort of aging mechanic, but that was literally it. After playing through Sifu, I can safely say that this game was nothing like I expected it to be, which isn't a bad thing at all. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised on how much thought went into creating a game so deep, so challenging, and so expansive from such a simple concept. I'm just gonna say it now, Sifu is already one of my favorite games I've played this year, but it's certainly not for everybody. It's riddled with bugs, some even game-breaking, the pacing and skill curve is all over the place, they don't explain anything to you on how the aging system works, and I wouldn't be surprised if people gave up on this game right after the first level. However, if you fell in love with Sifu's fast-paced and frame-perfect combat like I did, you are definitely in for a treat. I'm getting way ahead of myself, so let me explain what this game even is. Sifu is a single-player beat-em-up fighting game, where your mission is to avenge the death of your father. Each of the 5 levels in this game is centered around taking out a member of the mysterious group that killed him, but in order to get to them, you have to first go room to room killing all of their bodyguards. It's in the style of a typical beat-em-up game, but has a sort of roguelike twist where a game over screen will send you back to the start of the mission. What makes Sifu so unique is its aging mechanic, where every time you die you get a second chance, but you always come back a little bit older. Eventually around 70, you become too old to continue, and you'll have to restart the whole level again. Still with me? It's only gonna get more confusing. Sifu is all about getting the best possible run of each level, meaning your goal is to finish a level without dying at all, so you can stay young for the next level. Say you were to beat level 1 at age 50. You would then have to start level 2 at the same age, making it much more difficult because you have less time to work with, so to speak. In order to get younger in this game, you would have to go back to the previous level and replay it as many times as it takes you to end with a younger age. I hope that makes sense because it took me a long time to figure out how to say that. But one of my biggest complaints about Sifu is how it explains none of that to you. Look, I love it when a game isn't hand-holdy and respects the player enough to figure things out on their own, but it just doesn't work for a game like Sifu where the main mechanics are as complicated as they already are. Still though, I loved this concept. Nothing felt more rewarding than beating a level at a younger age than before. It gives you a true sense of improvement in your combat skills. But this is where I think a lot of people will differ. Each level is pretty long. Depending on your playstyles, a single stage could take you anywhere between 15 and 40 minutes, especially when you're first starting out. As a fan of roguelikes, I don't mind dying and having to restart an entire level, but I don't think it'll be the same way for everybody, especially because this game isn't advertised that way. If people just want to take in the storyline and move on to the next level, you really can't do that without multiple attempts. And even then you won't make it that far into the next level if you're starting it at age 50. Now if we're talking about me personally, I became obsessed with the grindy, repetitive nature of always improving my skills in Sifu, but I also can't ignore that this definitely isn't for everybody. I would suggest adding an easier difficulty, but at the same time that would destroy the whole point of Sifu. It's the same thing they do in Dark Souls. If they were to add an easier difficulty, it would completely defeat the purpose of the game and take away from the developer's vision on how it should be played. I can't complain because I love myself a hard game, and this game is hard as hell. I realize that I'm already deep in this video without mentioning the combat, so I'll get into that now. In Sifu, you have tons of combos to work with, mixing light and strong attacks. You also have takedown moves and finishers that snap you to enemies, much like the Arkham games. There's a focus bar that allows you to perform a combo starting move without worrying about getting blocked, but most importantly, the dodging, blocking, and parrying system does most of the heavy lifting. If you can't figure out how to parry in this game, you're gonna have a very tough time doing anything, because it's probably the most important move in Sifu. Enemies have posture in this game, and if you can do enough posture damage, you can unbalance an enemy and use a finisher. Parrying does a ton of posture damage, while also knocking your enemies off balance and giving yourself an opening. Sometimes it's best just to let your opponent strike first in order to get a good parry in. It's really that good, and most of all, it's hard to master. Enemies move very quickly, and timing a perfect parry can be pretty hard. but as long as you keep practicing, you will get it down fast. I also just love the way these fights looked. The up-close camera angles make encounters feel claustrophobic and uncomfortable. Sometimes they pan out to a wider angle when there are tons of enemies surrounding you, which I loved. They also had a few moments which were clearly inspired by the movie Oldboy. They used the same camera angle and everything. It's just awesome. Sometimes the camera felt a little janky when you're exploring an area for collectibles, but I didn't mind this that much. I really liked the locations of each level. One took place in a nightclub with all of these flashing lights and fast-paced dance music. Every location feels completely unique, and it's always fun exploring them for the first time. The art style is fine. I usually like games that are more cartoony looking, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. It kinda just looks like a mix between a Telltale game and Fortnite. There were some artistic moments where the art style really shines, but again, nothing new and nothing crazy. Now, I have to talk about the bugs a bit because I encountered quite a few, and these took place mostly during boss fights, so minor spoilers for level 2 and level 3 bosses. Sometimes they would get stuck on a wall and couldn't get out of it, which pulled me out of the immersion completely, but worst of all, there was one time where the boss I was fighting just despawned. It sucks because I spent the last half hour getting to this point, and then I was completely locked out of finishing it. I have to assume other people are experiencing these too, and I can only hope that they will be fixed in a future update. Now, I know I just ragged on this game like crazy, but I have to make it clear that I still enjoyed it a lot. This is one of those situations for me where the positives outweigh the negatives by a huge margin, but I don't think it's going to be the same for everybody. If you have previously played roguelike games and enjoyed them, you'll probably still like Sifu. If you're just interested in how the combat looks, I still think the game is worth a try, but there are some things you're just going to have to overlook. It was pretty hard for me to point out the flaws in a game that I love so much, but it's why I do what I do, and I would love to hear your own thoughts on the game. Did you enjoy Sifu? Did you give up? Are you thinking of playing it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We are getting pretty close to 11,000 subscribers, and I'd love to hit that this month, so subscribe to help me out. Also, go post something on r/ApoxFox. I just made my own subreddit, so send me your game suggestions on there, and I'll probably make a video on them. Anyways, keep on gaming to the fullest, and I'll see you next week. Peace.